everyone, welcome back to Pages and Screens. I'm Erin and today I'm going to be doing my July wrap up and my Booktube-A-Thon wrap up for you guys. I managed to read a total of 13 books in the month of July as well as 6 films, and I managed to also complete a TV show. So without any further ado, I'm just going to jump into this video because we have a lot to discuss. So this is my haul for Booktube-A-Thon. I also audiobooked War of the Worlds, but I don't have a physical copy of that. I'm so happy with my haul for Booktube-A-Thon. I completed all of the challenges. I managed to read a total of 2,212 pages. What? When I decided I was going to do Booktube-A-Thon, never in my life did I think that I was going to get 7 books read in 1 week, but I actually did it and I'm so happy. I'm just going to go through all the books I managed to read and the challenges that I completed. So the first book I read was Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy by Cassandra Clare, and this completed the challenge of read a book with a person on the cover. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I should have a full review of this either on this channel now or it will be coming soon, so stay tuned for that if you want more of my thoughts on this book. I loved it. Basically, this book follows Simon Lewis, a character from the Mortal Instruments series. It's a collection of short stories about him and his time at the Shadowhunter Academy, and it is so good. If you haven't read it and you have read Cassandra Clare's books and the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices, I highly recommend reading this because it is really good, and I think it's quite essential to the world that Cassandra Clare has built for the Shadowhunters. The second book I read for Booktube-A-Thon was Paper Girls Volume 2, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Cliff Chiang. I think I'm saying that right, I'm not too sure. This completed 2 challenges for me. It completed the challenge of read a book entirely outside and read a book in 1 day. Because this is a graphic novel, so I thought it was the best one to read outside and try and get completed in 1 day. This was really good. I really liked the first volume of this, and I hopefully will be picking up the 3rd one. The illustrations in this are gorgeous. Basically, Paper Girls follows a group of girls from the 80s, and it's got a real nostalgia vibe, and it's quite like Stranger Things, which is the reason I picked it up. It's described as the feminist comic series for fans of Stranger Things. It actually sums up this comic series so well, and I would highly recommend it if you're a fan of graphic novels. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars as well. The 3rd book I read for Booktube-A-Thon was Matilda by Roald Dahl. This is actually a library book, it's not my copy. I love Matilda, it's one of my favourite children's books. It follows a young girl called Matilda who is very different from her family and is kind of outcast for being intelligent, and she loves to read, and she also has some magical abilities, and it's just such a cute read. It was a really quick read as well, and I think it was quite a smart decision to read this because I also managed to get this read in 1 day. I love this children's book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was one of my favourites as a child and I still love it now. The 4th book I read for Booktube-A-Thon was Wonder by R.J. Palacio. I think I'm saying that right, I'm not sure. I will have a full review of this book coming up on this channel as well. I give this 5 out of 5 stars, and it completed the challenge of read a book about a person that is very different from you. I chose this one for that challenge because it follows a young boy called August who has a facial deformity. So the 5th book I read for Booktube-A-Thon completed the challenge of read a hyped book, and that was 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This was my favourite book I read this month. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, but I would have given it more if I could. This was absolutely amazing. If you don't know what 6 of Crows is about, it essentially follows 6 criminals that band together to try and complete an impossible heist. This book was so strong in the character department, and I love books that have really strong characters and feature a lot of character development, and this book did it so well. As you can see, I have a lot of notes written about this book, and again I will have a full review of this coming on this channel very soon, so stay tuned for that if you would like to see more of my thoughts on 6 of Crows. The 6th book I read for Booktube-A-Thon I don't have a physical copy of because I audiobooked it, and that was War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. War of the Worlds is about a Martian attack on Earth. The book was very ahead of its time, I thought. However, the way it was executed dragged a little bit, and I found it a bit boring in places, which is why I gave the book 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it, but I think it could have been a lot more exciting as a story, so that's why I gave it a bit of a lower rating. So the 7th and final book I read for Booktube-A-Thon completed the challenge of read a book you picked up because of the cover, and for me that was Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I loved this book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. My first time reading Anne of Green Gables. I never read it as a child, but I wish I had because I loved it so much. This follows a girl named Anne who is an orphan as she gets adopted by a ageing brother and sister who live in Prince Edward Island in Canada, and she is a very imaginative and free-spirited little girl, and it's about her living in Green Gables and all the friends that she makes while she's there, and it is so cute. And I'm going to be watching the mini-series, the old one though, the Canadian mini-series soon, and I'm really excited to watch it. I might pick up Anne of Avonlea soon as well because this was so good. And also, of course, I read this book because of the cover, because it is so beautiful. Can we just appreciate this cover? And also the back, oh, it's so gorgeous, it is so beautiful, and the spine is gorgeous as well. These are the Puffin and Bloom editions of Penguin Classics, and it's illustrated by Anna Bond, who is so talented. I love her illustrations. I am so happy that I managed to complete Booktube-A-Thon. I've never done it before, and I kind of just decided on a whim to do it this year. I'm so glad that I did because I did get 7 books read. I got all the challenges done. As I said earlier in the video, I read a total of 13 books this month, which means that I read 6 other books this month that were part of Booktube-A-Thon. So the first book I read this month that wasn't part of Booktube-A-Thon was Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I audiobooked this and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Basically, it follows the fallout of a murder on the Orient Express. Basically what it says on the tin. It's just a classic murder mystery novel, and it was the first Agatha Christie novel that I ever read, and I really enjoyed it. I now want to read And Then There Were None, Death on the Nile. The next book I read in July was Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson, which was a reread for me, and it was my second read of this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I do have a full review on this book. So I won't go into much detail about it because you can just check that out below. The next book I read in July was Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. This is a graphic novel following Nimona, who is an evil sidekick shapeshifter, as she teams up with Lord Blackheart to kind of wreak havoc on the world and just cause a lot of evil, mayhem and all that kind of stuff. This was so cute. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was a really good graphic novel. The next 2 books I read, I don't have physical copies of. I read them on my Kindle when I was on holiday. The first one was Can You Keep a Secret by Sophie Kinsella. Can You Keep a Secret follows the main character Emma after she basically tells all of her secrets to a stranger on a plane ride when they hit really bad turbulence, and she thinks she's going to die, and then this stranger on the plane turns out to be none other than the CEO of the company she works for. So it's about kind of the fallout of that. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was just one of those cute fluffy romances, and it's kind of the stereotypical book that I like to read when I'm on holiday because I always just look for light, easy reads when I go away. And the next book I read when I was on holiday was Dark Matter, and I'm forgetting the author's name right now, so I'll just kind of pop it up there somewhere. Dark Matter is a psychological thriller following a man as he is kidnapped one night, and when he wakes up, his life is not his life. His wife is not his wife anymore. He doesn't have a son. He doesn't have the same job. He doesn't live in the same house. Everything about his life that he's ever known has changed, and he's kind of thrown into a different life, and it's kind of about him trying to figure out what's happened and get back to his old life. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars again. I feel like a lot of the books I'm talking about in this video have really high ratings, but honestly I've just had really good luck recently with my reading. And the final book I read in July before participating in Booktube-A-Thon was The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare. Again, I will have a full review of this coming up on my channel soon. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was probably one of the books I enjoyed the least this month, along with War of the Worlds. I was a bit disappointed with this. I enjoyed it, but I did not love it, sadly. So now I'm going to move into the movies I watched this month. As I said, I watched 6 films this month, and the first one I watched was A Clockwork Orange, directed by Stanley Kubrick. The story follows a young criminal in a futuristic London. He is basically experimented on to see if he could be rid of his corruption and criminal tendencies. I gave it a 7 out of 10. It was a really well made film and I did enjoy it, but I didn't love it. The story was very strange. Obviously you don't align yourself with the main character because he is a criminal, he is a murderer, he is a rapist, he is a very problematic character. The next film I watched in July was Spider-Man Homecoming. I saw that in the cinema. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed this film so much more than I thought I would. I'm going to throw it out there and say that Marvel have not been my favourite studio recently. I just feel like they're very money making, and I don't really like going to see films when I feel like the companies have an agenda just to get money out of you. I do enjoy Marvel films, but I'm kind of just sick of seeing the same formula repeated over and over again. But I really enjoyed Spider-Man Homecoming. I love the Spider-Man origin story, and I love seeing teen superheroes. They're just so much more fun. And Tom Holland as well. I love Tom Holland so much. He was a great Spider-Man, and I really enjoyed watching this film. I went to see Baby Driver, directed by Edgar Wright, and again I loved this film. I gave it 8 out of 10. It was so good. Basically, Baby Driver follows a young getaway driver. He doesn't really want to be part of this world, but he's kind of roped into it. It was so expertly made as well. Edgar Wright really impressed me. I have a blog post review of Baby Driver that I'll leave a link down below if you want to check that out. The next film I watched was Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock. I didn't love this film. I liked Psycho a lot more than I enjoyed Rear Window. I gave Rear Window 6 out of 10. It basically follows the story of a man who has broke his leg and he's cooped up in his apartment, and he witnesses a murder, and he's kind of trying to figure out what happened with the crime, and also kind of alert the police and get clues and things like that. I didn't love this film. I thought it was a bit boring. And I was so surprised. I thought I would enjoy it. I like Hitchcock's direction, but I don't know if it was the narrative of this story. I didn't really love it. I didn't love the monotony of the film. The next film I watched was one that I was so excited to see, and I loved it. I gave it 8 out of 10, and that was The Beguiled by Sofia Coppola. Sofia Coppola is one of my favourite directors. I love her work, and The Beguiled was no disappointment to me. I adored this film. Basically, it follows a wounded Union soldier from the Civil War as he is found outside of a girls' boarding school, and he's kind of taken in by the women. And it's about the fallout of his arrival at this boarding school and how masculinity corrupts femininity. It was so well made, and I am so hoping that Coppola gets an Oscar nod for this film. And finally, the last film I saw in the month of July was Dunkirk, directed by Christopher Nolan. Again, I loved this film. I gave it 8 out of 10. Dunkirk is exactly what it says on the tin. It is all about the evacuation of Dunkirk in World War II, and it follows the soldiers on the land, sea and air. The craftsmanship of this film was so phenomenal, and Nolan is a fantastic director, and I mean, Dunkirk was no disappointment to me. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did, but I absolutely loved it. And finally, in July, I managed to complete a TV show, and I managed to watch all of Westworld and the HBO show this month, and it was so good. I loved this show so much. It basically follows a futuristic theme park that is a simulation of the Wild West, and it follows the hosts in the park, which are basically AI robots that believe they are in the Wild West, and it's about their story and the makers of the theme park and also the guests at the theme park, and it is so good. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend you check it out. It was amazing. I will have a full review of this show coming up on this channel very soon. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on Westworld, just stay tuned, and it should be arriving very soon. So that is it for my July wrap up and Booktube-A-Thon wrap up. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm really happy with what I managed to read this month and watch this month. I think I did a pretty good job considering I went on holiday for a week. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!